Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rendezvous Lounge. I'm your cruise host, Jason. So glad to have you back with me again for another edition of All Access Pass, our second to final All Access Pass. It is amazing how quickly 7 days goes. And I'm already joined on stage by my absolutely wonderful guests today. Now, some of you got to see them last night. Some of you get to see them a little bit later tonight. Some of you get to see them all around the ship, in the buffet line, wherever you've had a chance to see them. They're always impressive. They go by a handful of different names, the American band, GFR, but we all know them as Grand Funk Railroad. First and foremost, thank you very much for being here, gentlemen. Truly appreciate you taking the time to come down and chat with all these wonderful folks. By round of applause in the live studio audience, how many of you saw the show last night? Who got to see it last night? And who gets to see it later? Who gets to see it tonight? Who's sneaking into tonight because they loved last night? Somebody, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. There's always some sneakers. There's always some sneakers. Dawn, if you wouldn't mind starting us off, thank you very much for being here. As I said, what'd you think of the show last night? What'd you think of that crowd?
Oh, I thought the show was, awesome last night. And these folks over here were definitely louder than the ones that haven't seen the show because they were all cranked up. Yeah.
If you don't mind taking a second, let's introduce ourselves to everybody. And I know this is basically an all-star band on stage right now. These five gentlemen have played with, for, inspired pretty much everyone in the rock and roll industry. So if you wouldn't mind maybe just saying a little bit about how you came to be a part of Grand Funk, easier for some of you than others, how you came to be a part of Grand Funk Railroad.
Sure. Well, Max, you want to start here? Yeah.
Hey, Max.
This is Max Carl, for everybody you know.
I have a friend, we have a mutual friend named Stephen Volpe, who's an instrument builder and inventor, and he built this great drum kit that Don was playing. And I knew Steve because he was in PV down in Mississippi, and I had a friend there who was a blues historian, and I would go through there and hang out with Stephen. And I studied this whole thing down there called Mississippi Fife and Drum, and which is a very cool thing, African-American folk music. And Steve Volpe called me and said, Don Brewer wants to talk to you. And I thought he wanted to talk to me about Mississippi Fife and Drum, and I just moved back to L.A., and I was kind of in a crazy time period. He called me once, I didn't call him back. He called me twice, I didn't call him back.
I wasn't going to call you a third time.
And the third time I was like, well, you're acting like a jerk, so hey, Don, what's going on? This is Max. Said, you want to be in Grand Funk Railroad? Yeah. Okay, we'll see you next week. So that's how that happened.
But also, not only is that a cool story, but don't sell yourself short. I mean, you've sung with Elton, with Dusty Springfield, with Bonnie Raitt, the Eagles. I mean, you're regarded as one of the premier voices in Blue-Eyed Soul. So, let's not act like you just randomly stumbled into this gig.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Max is formerly of 38 Special. Max sang and wrote their biggest hit, Second Chance, which we do in the show, as a matter of fact. And also, for those that are old enough, and I'm sure you probably all are, you remember Jack Mack and the Heart Attack from that was his band back in the, there you go. So, and he is probably one of the last blue-eyed soul singers on the planet, and just an incredible voice. He really is.
Years ago, way before these damn synthesizers.
Don't feel bad, Max. We had Felix Cavalieri on this week as well, and obviously,
He's the awesomest.
Yeah, you gotta love Felix. Bruce, please.
Well, I was on the short list. My name is Bruce Kulick. Many of you might know me. Thank you. You might know me from some other bands. I played with Meatloaf on the Bat Outta Hella tour, which was pretty exciting. Yep. I was very afraid of him, okay? And I went on and did a record with Billy Squier, which was a lot of fun. And then I was in a band called Blackjack with Michael Bolton, okay? And that is the connection with Grand Funk. Michael was touring solo, actually, at the time, but I was his guitarist. And we opened up for Bob Seger many times. Don here has played drums for Seger. You've probably seen him with Bob Seger on many tours. And sure enough, I got to meet, Don, and you'd see him at a NAMM show, like one of those music, convention tours kind of things, shows. And then when they decided to do the, Grand Funk Mach 2, whatever you want to call it, I was on the short list. He contacted me. I was also a little like not sure if it was really him. You know what I mean? But we spoke, and then we got together in Michigan to jam and just feel each other out. And I can't believe this is. Am I right? This is 18th year of us doing this. Okay, of me being with Grand Funk. So, and I will admit I skipped over something else, that I was the lead guitarist of Kiss for 12
Kiss.
years.
Yeah,
okay?
let's not leave that out.
Thank you. Now, for Grand Funk, that's not necessarily the biggest plus, okay, as Don knows. You know, the Kiss fans are very single-minded in many ways, but Don knew from me working with the other artists that I mentioned that I was versatile and that I would take the gig very seriously in respecting the music and the guitar playing, and the song was always the most important thing. Max was a little nervous about me, to be honest, okay? He wasn't so sure. He saw pictures of me with, like, you know, sexy girls from some of the rock things I did. And then, of course, we got together for dinner, and he realized I was a very straight-up professional musician, okay? Who happened to play with Kiss.
That's not what he
First
told
time I've ever heard this story.
Yeah. I'll tell you more about it later, anyway. So anyway, I'm just very happy to be here, and I couldn't be playing with finer musicians, so I'm going to pass it over to Tim Cashin over here.
Yeah.
Dr. Tim.
Hello. Thank you. Tim Cashin here. I guess people would say, how does a southern boy from Cornelius, North Carolina get to do this type of a job, you know? So I think it all started back when I went to college at University of Miami. Decided to go down there and study music down there. Go Canes. And I was studying, they had a jazz program that I was interested about. And just surrounded by so many people down there, so many talented players and everything. And it led me to meet up with Emilio Estefan, Gloria Estefan's husband, and he hired me to do a tour in Japan to sing with a guy named Takanaka, who was kind of like a Santana, an American Santana guy. But anyway, that's kind of where it started. And a guitar friend of mine down there, colleague, was working with Bob Seger in '96, and Bob was looking for a keyboard/backup vocalist guy, and his name's Tim Mitchell, and he called me up and said, Seger's looking for somebody. We want to come up and jam, and I was like, well, duh, yeah. So go up there, and I meet Seger, and I toured with Seger in '96, and Seger's management, I think that's when Grand Funk was kind of getting back together in '96, and the management was under the same company, so I think, Don, unless I'm incorrect, my name maybe have come up through the Seger camp or something like that.
Yeah, there's definitely a Seger connection. I mean, you know, the Grand Funk and Bob Seger in Michigan and the whole thing. There's, you know, like a lot of, you know, we know this guy, that guy, and that, you know, that kind of thing. And so when we were putting this rendition of Grand Funk back together, I called one of the managers of Bob Seger, Bill Blackwell, and Bill, you know, I said I was looking for a keyboard player that could sing, you know, and he gave me Tim's number, you know, and it was just a perfect match. You know, we you know, like Bruce said, we've been touring for 18 years with this, you know, virtually the same band, and it's just incredible. You don't find that very often. So, but yeah, Tim is just an incredible keyboard player, a great singer, you know, and just and a wonderful guy.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, I'm Stan Sheldon, and you know, my inclusion into this band of gypsies is really recent, so I won't have
Very recent. I think it's only, what, 6 shows?
I'm
now?
still dizzy. It's been such a rapid kind of whirlwind, and it's such an honor to be in this band. And if it hadn't been for Max and our relationship years ago with a guitar player named Tommy Bolin, we both made our way west from Kansas and Nebraska.
I mean, Kansas.
And we ended up in LA together with Tommy. And we ran into each other on the Legends of Rock cruise 2 years ago when I was playing with Peter still. And
He played on Peter Frampton's, you know, what was Frampton Comes Alive. He was with Peter for, you know, I don't know how many years.
a decade.
Yeah.
And then another decade. So, well, there were 30 years in between. But it was running into Max on the cruise 2 years ago, and I think Don got to see me play with Peter, so when the issue came up they needed to replace Mel really quickly,
Yeah, let me just put in it. I mean, Mel is still, touring with the band, and he's just got a really tough situation going on at home with his wife right now, and she has a serious medical condition, and he can't leave her right now. So we had to get a guy on short notice, and thankfully we were able to hook up with Stan Sheldon, and just
Thank you. Yeah, it's such
incredible.
an honor. It's an honor to be playing with these guys.
Well, and Mel has a very distinct sound. Obviously, I mean, that's a muscular lead-based style.
That they seemingly they're different, but they're not. My style is finger kind of funk, and Mel attacks with the pick. So the thing that brought it together that I could match it kind of in my way was our R&B, I think, roots. I could tell he listened to James Jamerson from Motown a lot, just like I had. So we feel it the same way. We just attack it a different way.
You're good when you use the word attack it a different way. All right, my friends, don't turn the channel, don't go away. We'll be back in just a minute with more with Grand Funk Railroad. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for not going away. We were just chatting about the makeup of the band. Now, Dawn, I'm going to ask you, of course, the obvious question. Tell us how Grand Funk Railroad starts.
In the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning.
1969. Mark Farner and I had a band called The Pack. And prior to that, it was Terry Knight and the Pack, and then it became the Fabulous Pack, and it fell apart, virtually in the mid '60s, mid to late '60s, and we were looking to, change from being just a local Michigan band, and we'd made it in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that kind of stuff, but we wanted to do something big and something different. And at the time, this is like 1967, 1968, what was happening was Jimi Hendrix, Cream, Blue Cheer, all these power trios were happening. So a manager who had been in the band Terry Knight and the Pack, Terry Knight, he said, why don't you guys start a trio? So, Mark and I, took the material that we were doing back in the 60s, which was real poppy kind of stuff, but we took that material and we enlisted Mel Shocker, the God of Thunder, from Question Mark and the Mysterians. You may remember that band. Yeah. And and we got Mel. Mel used to be a friend of Mark's when they were in high school together. And so we stole him really from Question Mark, and we said, we want to start a new band. You want to do it? It's a power trio. Yeah, I want to do it. So I mean, we're just kids, and so we took all this material and converted it over to a power trio thing. Which is it was like this R&B based pop music. And we pumped it up on steroids and turned it into Grand Funk Railroad. That's really what it was. And it just that kind of turned the corner for us. We got an invitation to play at the first Atlanta Pop Festival, totally unknown. Nobody had ever heard of this band before. We got down there, and we went on first act, first day, no money, and got a standing ovation. And that really, it took us to the next day. They said, come back tomorrow, you can play, and so they put us on a better slot the next day, put us on a better slot the third day, and by the third day, we were the talk of the pop festival, so we kind of broke out from that, and went through the South playing all the hippie ballrooms, back then, and played the Texas International Pop Festival, and it just kind of, Capitol Records took notice of this new band that was happening, and we recorded on time, and that's when it took off. Right from there, 1969 going into 1970.
And is it true that you named yourself after Grand Trunk Railroad through Flint, Michigan?
Yeah, Flint, Michigan. We were looking for a new name, but and it's not all about the water. So. The Grand Trunk and Western Railroad, used to run down from Canada down through Michigan, and so when we were growing up, we'd sit at all these railroad crossings, and it was Grand Trunk and Western, Grand Trunk and Western, so when we needed to have a new name, funk music had just been born back then, and so we just made a play on words and called it Grand Funk Railroad. Everybody thought we were saying the other four-letter word because it was kind of risque back then, And so, it got a lot of attention. It was very powerful, and that's where the name came from. Yeah.
And 49 years later, here you are.
Can you believe it?
49
years.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Next year's the big 5-0. Whoa. Yeah.
And speaking of the Big 5-0, what's the band doing now? What are you guys? What's the current tour schedule? How often? How many dates do you play a year?
We do, for the past 18 years, we've done around 35 to 40 shows. And the past 2 years, 2016, 2017, have been our best years. In the past 20, we're doing about 45 shows a year. So we're out there, and we're not a bus tour kind of band. So we don't get on a bus and just take off and go. We're kind of weekend rock stars. We go out and play on Friday and Saturday night and go home and take the trash out on Monday. So.
Otherwise, you won't be able to play on Monday.
That's right.
That's the rule.
Yeah, so that's kind of been our schedule, and that's what we do, and it works out real well. We don't spend too much time together, so we're not. I can't
Just
stand
enough.
you."
Just enough.
Just
time
enough.
together.
Yeah.
Max, what has it been like for you? Obviously, you've played with a lot of folks. You performed with a lot of huge names. What's it mean to be a part of Grand Funk Railroad?
Well, it was difficult. Mark is one of the best singers ever in rock and roll. So, but the thing that helped me was that I got to sing all those great songs.
Sure.
And so that was, as a singer, I always approached stuff like that. Someone told me early on, as soon as you realize that you should serve the song rather than the other way around, then you'll be a singer. So I took it on like that. These are great songs. I'm going to sing them from the heart, do my best at them. And then, of course, there was a lot of covers, and the group, the Soul Brothers 6, I'll let Don tell that story now. We just had a great moment with that 2 weeks ago. But all that Motown stuff, I grew up playing soul music. And there was Motown, there was Philly soul, there was Muscle Shoals, there was Memphis soul. There was a lot of soul music. I always played in the horn bands. So Some Kind of Wonderful was, I think, one of the first things I sat down and sang, and everybody's like, okay, well, that's pretty good. So, and we fit in together. We're all about the same kind of temperaments, and it was Don and Mel made me feel very relaxed from the very beginning.
There's a real common, the common thread really with this whole band is the R&B thing. Everybody's got this R&B love, and we just rock it out. That's kind of what we do, and but I think that's the common thread is that everybody has this love of R&B music, and that's where it starts. So it's feeling it from the heart, from the soul, and not just about the recording, and not just about the perfection of this or that. It's about having some soul, and that's really what it is.
And I saw a great quote from you, Bruce, that having Don and Mel behind you laying down that rhythm track pretty much sets up anything and everything you could ever want to do on lead guitar. What's it like playing in front of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, what a rhythm section. You think about it. First of all, when I got turned on to Grand Funk, like all of you probably in 69, 70, for me they were like this heavy metal. You see, Cream was really important to me, in the British Invasion and trios, like Don was saying, he was recommended to become a trio. But they did it really differently, and as much as, I'll be honest, Mark Farner's tone was very different from a lot of the British players. He wasn't trying to be Eric Clapton or Jimi Hendrix, but the music had so much heart and soul to it, and a little bit funky, or a little bit more R&B than a lot of the British ones. So I was really drawn to it.
They were blues.
Yeah, it was.
They were much more blues.
They were more based on the blues, correct. So I was fascinated with them, and then of course I knew that Don was a tremendous drummer, and Mel was like that powerful bassist, that was kind of up front a bit, which is something I was always turned on to. So playing with these guys obviously has been a dream. I never have to worry about where the downbeat's going to be.
Yeah.
When I'm out there soloing. One of the best things a musician when you jam with players, if any of you guys who happen to play or anything, if your drummer can keep great time and groove, that feels really great, okay? No matter what level you're at, it's really good to have a drummer that's solid. And Don's one of the best in the business, so it's a real joy. And I love it. I love it. And Stan's holding down the bass, as you know. I mean, he's a real pro.
Yeah, Stan rocked. It's not every day you hear the term lead bass. It's just not the most common term out there. So for a bass player to lead and get out front, it's pretty cool, man.
I don't consider myself a lead
Well,
bass
I
player.
do. I watched you last night, so
If you're with us.
you were awesome, man. You were awesome. You killed it.
Well, thank you.
It was fantastic. Gentlemen, I know we've got to get to some questions from the audience, which we'll do in just a moment. So we're going to leave for one more quick break. Don't go away. Back with more Grand Funk Railroad in just a moment. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for not going away. We have one more segment with Grand Funk Railroad. And as always, as you know, I like to allow the audience to get a few questions in. So I want to shuffle through a couple of these, if you don't mind, gentlemen, and see what we come up with. There's a question we already answered. Bill from Oswego, New York. Bill says, where did the idea for the song Closer to Home come from?
Well, that, I mean, that was Mark Farner's song, and I really, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a very spiritual song. I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I'm not exactly sure where Mark's first idea came from to that, but I'm sure it was from a spiritual place, and that it kind of takes everybody in that direction. It means something different, I think, to everybody. And there's nights that I can look out in the audience and I can tell the guys that came back from Vietnam, and they're crying because they played it for the entire trip home. So yeah, that's the kind of song it is. Yeah.
Beautiful. Tyne from Maine asks a very, well, this question is perfect for you because you wrote it. How'd you decide to proclaim yourself the American band?
It was an accident.
All the best ones are, I feel like, yeah.
We were going through a terrible breakup from our former manager, Terry Knight, and a couple of crooked attorneys, and they had basically gotten us into a contract that we were going to be beholding to them for forever, and when we found out about it after 3 years and 6 gold records, we decided to terminate that relationship, and of course they immediately sued us, and all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, radio was changing from being the underground format that it was in 69, 70, 71, where all the songs were 7 minutes long, and you could really do virtually anything. The more different you did, the better. And everything was becoming hit radio. In 1972, it had to be 3 minutes long, and so I decided I was going to jump in there. We needed money, and we needed a hit record really, really bad. So I was going to make an attempt to write a hit record, and I was doing out on the road, and we were, I was taking little snippets from each place we were going, and Sweet Sweet Connie in Little Rock, we met the groupie Sweet Sweet Connie. We had Freddie King, the great blues guitar player, playing as our opening act, and Freddie, I had to put him in the song. Up all night playing poker with Freddie King, it was just a unique experience. He used to have his band. He made them play poker with him every night. Yeah, you couldn't be in his band without playing poker with him, and he paid them and won the money back.
That's why you were required to play. Yeah.
So up all night with Freddie King, I got to tell you, poker's his thing. That's where that came from. And then, the 4 Young Chiquitas in Omaha. We came into Omaha on our tour, and there were 4 girls waiting in the lobby. I have no idea how they knew we were staying there, but we decided to tear the hotel down. That's where that.
I'd like to jump in here because I'm from Nebraska and I'm living in Omaha now, and I've met at least 70 girls who claim to be one of the 4.
One of the 4, right? Yeah.
Ask Don if he remembers me. Okay.
No. It was the 70s. I don't remember. But anyway, to make a longer story longer, I wrote the song around all those little things, and I'm not a great guitar player. I had a little Martin acoustic guitar at home, and I could play little 2-finger chords, and I came up with the chord changes, down, down, bow, da 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 da, and I put all the lyrics together, and I kind of wrote the song around, we're coming to your town, we'll help you party it down, because we were flying into these towns, and that's what we were doing. We were going to head to the local arena, and we're going to party it down. I couldn't come up with a tag, and finally it just dawned on me one day, and it sounded really good. We're an American band. When I sang it, it sounded, what? That sounds good. We're an American band. It sounds good, doesn't it? So I wasn't, I wasn't trying to wave the flag or anything. I was just trying to stop, from being broke. I didn't like being broke.
Think about how magical that is. These guys have to have a hit, and he writes that all by himself, all from those experiences of being in a band, okay, with a title that is iconic. I can't tell you how many groups I've been in that, at soundcheck, we do that song. We used to fool around with that song. So I'm always so proud of you, Don. That's an amazing song to write. And,
it probably
there it is,
came from up there or something because it was meant to be, and we really needed to beat Terry Knight and the Crooked Attorneys, and that led us down the path to be able to do that.
Very cool.
Good for them.
I feel like we've learned a lot in these talks, haven't we? We've gotten a lot of the random, we've gotten a lot of the cool stuff. The Hollies accidentally stumbled into 3-part harmony. Paul Revere and the Raiders were walking down a street and saw costumes and you desperately needed a hit. You'd put some things together that you'd experienced, and boom, there's the American band. It's pretty cool. Jay from New Jersey says, "What's it like making an album produced by Zappa?"
Oh wow, yeah. That was the record we were just talking about. We're an American band. We brought in a new producer that helped us, Todd Rundgren. Todd, and that helped us get through the next 2 albums. And then that kind of fell apart. And so we brought in another guy to do Some Kind of Wonderful and those things. And then we were looking for another change. We needed another kind of a new thing. And at the time, Craig Frost, who plays with Bob Seger, and there's another Bob Seger connection, he plays with Bob, and Craig Frost was our keyboard player. And Craig and I went out to see the new Frank Zappa movie, 2,000 Motels, and in the movie, Frank, he takes a swat at Grand Funk Railroad. He's like, oh, you want to be like Grand Funk Railroad, And so I'm sitting there with Craig, and I go, let's get Frank to produce the record for us. So, that's off the wall, isn't it? Frank Zappa, producing Grand Funk Railroad. Well, we called his manager, and by golly, Frank wanted to come and do it, So we flew him out to Flint, Michigan, had our little studio out there in Parshallville, and he came in and he loved working with the band. That's the title of the record came from him. Good singing, good playing. We said, we need a title for this, and he said, well, just do call it what you are. Good singing, good playing. And that's really what I loved working with Frank. I loved meeting his family out in L.A. and it was just really everybody thinks he's this really totally off the wall guy, and he really wasn't. That was his kind of thing to be on TV and to. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, but I love doing that record. That was great.
Very cool. Sheila from Brooklyn. I think she's over there. This one is just for Bruce. I also grew up in Flatbush. And I can't. What street? On what avenue? Satan. Thank you. It was a joke. It was a joke, Sheila. Caton Avenue. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the, they called it the Flatbush, area of Brooklyn, not far from Brooklyn College. And I was there until about 10 years old, and then I moved to Queens. One really amazing thing, I know that Grand Funk had its roots in Michigan, and there's the Seeger connection and all that, but certainly growing up in New York and Brooklyn and being so close to Manhattan, where many of the biggest artists in the world came to play. Of course, I got to see Hendrix. I went to see Cream and with the Who and the Rascals. Okay, believe it or not, at the Murray Decay show. But so growing up in New York, it was being in Madison Square, going to Madison Square Garden, and years later playing there with Kiss and everything. It really was an education of music without, besides the New York lifestyle, which is like if you can grow up in New York, you can live anywhere. Okay, that's the thing. You got an eye in the back of your head. You know what I mean? But it's really, I can't believe how many people on the boat today I met that mentioned the East Coast, mentioned Brooklyn or New York or Philly. I heard people talking about. So, I think it's a revolution. That we're all here out on the ocean celebrating great music with wonderful bands and all. It's really wonderful.
Absolutely. Keeping with the area, Carrie Ann, who got it right this time, she's made sure I know that. Carrie Ann from the Bronx said, would you please, and I'm reading it in her voice, would you please sing a couple of lines from Bad Time for Being in Love?
Well, I didn't write the song or sing the song, so I'm not the guy to do that. You know, I'm in love with a girl that I'm talking about. How about that?
Hey, there you go. Chrissy from Jersey, we're really sticking in the area. Yeah. Chrissy from Jersey said, were you ever on Ed Sullivan? Were you ever on Ed Sullivan?
No, we never did Ed Sullivan. We did the Dick Clark show back in the, but those were Terry Knight and the Pack days. That was, and I think we did Playboy After Dark.
You got to see that one. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you can Google that and find it.
Yeah,
I'm
a
sure,
friend of mine.
Or
shared
don't,
it.
or
Grand Funk
don't do it.
Yeah, Playboy After Dark. Yeah.
Clear your search history, folks. Clear your search history if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. It's great.
Chrissy's follow-up is, when did you start to bring the American flag onto your set?
We've been doing that, I think, since about 2000, huh? I would say, and Bruce, I think Bruce is one of those guitar players that, the baseball teams and the football teams, they all want him to come play the Star Spangled Banner. So, we, decided to put it in the show.
It was great. I remember what happened. It was early on. Thank you. Memorial Day, and he was like, Bruce, the Star Spangled Banner. Let's do it tonight, and then it became part of the show every night, So, no, I'm honored to do that, of course, and we're the American band. Why not, okay?
Good answer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Don. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I don't know her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Funny you say that, sir. Carol from Boca
Oh, Boca.
for Don. I worked with Sally Clare, a.k.a. Sunny Quinn,
there you go.
at Bethesda Hospital. Is she still around in any part of your life? If so, is she here? How is she? Thanks.
Yes, she's still in my life, and she couldn't make it out this time. She's got a little ranch and she's got horses, and she couldn't get anybody to take care of the horses. So she really wanted to come on this cruise. Yeah, I will definitely tell her. You said hi. Yeah, that.
You tell her.
5 or 6 years together.
Yeah.
Carol from Boca.
I knew your backstory.
You knew the backstory. Yeah. There you go.
Let's
Yeah.
not start that here.
Yeah.
Thurston got another question here. Thurston from La Mirada. He says, amazing show last night, first and foremost, exclamation point. There's about 7 of them. Do you remember, here we go, do you remember about 45 years ago at the Anaheim Convention Center across from Disneyland, your concert sold out,
Sure.
Anaheim,
Yeah.
your concert sold out at the last minute. While you were on stage, a small riot broke out with fans who couldn't get in. Bottles were thrown, total chaos broke out. Do you remember this? And if so, I was there, and I threw the first bottle. Sorry.
I
did.
absolutely
He
remember
did.
that show. Yeah. That
He says if not, he's in the first stages of dementia and forget about it.
That was when the hippies all wanted free music, and so they didn't think that they had to pay to get into a concert. They would, tear down the gates at a festival, and charge in, and that's what it was there. They didn't think that they should have to pay to get into the Grand Funk show, and so, yeah, they came and they broke out the back windows, and the riot police came, and they had the billy clubs out and the dogs and all this stuff, and my sister and my brother-in-law were at that show, and they were like backstage when the windows came in, and they were like, "Oh my God, what has Don got? What's Don?
What is
got
Don
into?
doing?
What's he doing?"
What is this band?
Oh, I remember that show. Yeah.
Roseanne from Connecticut says, will you be singing Aimless Lady tonight?
No, we don't do "Aimless Lady" tonight, but that's a great song. That's from the Closer to Home album, I think it is. Yeah, and a great song. Yeah.
George, who's from Michigan, says, what was the music scene like in Michigan back in the 60s? We already talked about that a little bit. And can you tell us about Sherwood Forest and the bands that played there?
Man, you guys go way back.
Did I not warn you about this crowd? I thought I warned you guys about it.
Yeah. Wow, the Beau Brummels played there at Sherwood Forest, and I can't tell you. I mean, and all the Detroit bands, Nugent and the MC5 and the Rationals. I don't know if you remember the band called the Rationals. You know, yeah. So yeah, Sherwood Forest. That was the teen sock hop place, and Mont Holly was the other teen sock hop kind of a thing. Yeah. And Bob Dell, WTAC, remember that? That jock from, huh? Peter C.
Peter C.
Peter Cavanaugh, right? Yeah, that's right. And those guys really helped, when Grand Funk, took off. They played, they gave us a lot of airplay. Yeah.
The last question was the inspiration, Gail from Delaware. What was the inspiration for Some Kind of Wonderful?
Well, that was, as Max brought up before, that was the Soul Brothers Six. They originally did that song in the 60s. And when Grand Funk was touring, we would go, from the hotel. We'd get in the back of the car, and we'd go from the hotel to the arena. And that was kind of our warm-up thing, to get the band all cranked up before we got there, And we used to do an a cappella version of it. I don't need a whole lots of money. I don't need a big fine car. We just, do an a cappella version in the back of the car. And one day our manager said, this was when we switched managers, Andy Cavallari, great guy. He said, why don't you guys record that song? And so, that's what we did. We went in and recorded it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest wedding reception songs in the world. Everybody knows that song. When I go out and I start singing that song at some of the fairs and festivals we do, you see kids and grandkids and parents and grandparents, and they all know the song, and that's just like there's no feeling like that. That's incredible to see that happen. So yeah, that's where it came from.
I have one question I always like to ask at the end. You were blessed with grandkids, if I'm correct.
Yes.
You have two fantastic grandkids.
You got 5 now.
You have 5 grandkids
Yes,
now.
5 grandkids.
You have 5 grandkids. What are you called? What do the grandkids call you?
Papa.
You're Papa. Okay. You're Papa. We hear a lot of different. I always like to ask what the grandkids call you.
And when they come over, Papa, where's the candy? And I've got it up on the top shelf, and because they all know, and they'll all stand there. Where's the candy?
Well, I really truly appreciate you gentlemen taking the time to come down here and be with all of us today and film the show. Do me a favor, everybody. These 5 wonderful gentlemen rocked you last night and again tonight. Let's hear it for Grand Funk Railroad. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And don't miss tomorrow, Mickey Dolenz here on stage. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you after.